Welcome to another episode of Conduct Detrimental. We told you we'd be back. We said we were coming back. We'd come back week after week, and here we are the next week. Michael Krepchenko, how you been? It's been like a nice 7 days. It hasn't been that long.
I know, no, I'm great. I'm just thrilled to be back to back weeks. It's exciting, and to be able to get in the co-pilot seat consistently has been a huge goal, and to get back, and I'm excited to be.
Well, we're not going to spoil anything, but I know you're working on something big in the background, and this is me putting it out into the ether that I'm rooting for you on the thing that you might get, that you might not get, but we're rooting for you here. So, I remember once upon a time, it's probably 2 or 3 years ago. I was waiting to tell you this. We had some psychopath on Twitter that was like adding you and saying this whole thing, basically saying you're wasting time doing the podcast. And I said, Mike, trust the process. Fuck that guy. And that guy definitely listens to the podcast, but we have not heard from him since I think his account got deleted. I think probably his employer found out who he was because he was a psychopath, tweeting a lot about tennis. Fair.
That's fair.
Fair. A lot of tennis tweets. But in any event, Mike, we're now 2 years down the road, and I'm very happy to see that all of your work, not just here, but on your YouTube channel, which people should check out. Mike, you do not have a face for radio, very presentable, and that might be paying off. So fantastic. So with that being said, we have a pretty normal episode today. We got a bunch of topics. We're going to try to stay with the current beat of the news. There's a lot going on across the world of sports, and this is kind of like the hot stove of the year. June, July, got World Cup. We got football kicking into the year. It's almost time for fantasy football season. We got basketball. We got a lot. And obviously the college hot stove is always taken. That being said, show sponsored by Themis Bar Review, top bar prep company in the galaxy. I have had some conversations. Mike, maybe I missed it. When is the bar? When is the bar?
The bar?
Yeah.
Like for me or for general?
In general.
July 28th, I'm seeing.
Okay. That's like a little less than 3 weeks out. So we wish all best of luck to all of those test takers. And for those that are going to be taking the exam next year, probably some of my students that were required to listen to this podcast, hopefully they stayed on because I got my evaluations, I got my reviews. People seem to enjoy the class. They missed Professor Lust. And hopefully they're all signing up for Themis, top bar prep company in the galaxy. So in our return episode last week, I wanted to give a shout out. I'm not going to mention anyone by name, but I got a lot of nice Instagram messages. I didn't realize so sometimes you kind of forget the reach that we have. And I had a couple people reach out like, hey, I haven't heard, basically checking in to see if everything was all right. Like if God forbid, like one of us died, which I think they discerned that we did not die, but, it was nice that people were checking on us. And then, Mike, we put that nice post up on LinkedIn. We got a lot of people dropping in, a lot of people saying that, we're back. So shout out to those people. And we're back for you guys. And it's all good. Okay, Mike, you did a great job putting the show notes together. And it's so funny, as we had kind of narrowed in on a couple topics, we had 3 breaking news stories that we moved them up. We had to move things around. Okay, roadmap for today. This was not on the list. Kawhi Leonard, the trade that we assumed was clear because they made the trade, but now all of a sudden is not clear. So Kawhi Leonard, I'm sure we'll find some way to talk about the whiteboard. I'm not in my office today, but I love those Rich Paul podcasts with the whiteboard. Might need to infuse the whiteboard into what we do here. Possible, Mike?
It's right there.
We're going to talk about Flo Balogun, the USA case that was, the maybe bad legal karma we got along the way. We'll definitely hit that. A really interesting case. We don't really talk about Bucknell. I've never made it onto the show. A very interesting case was flagged for me by our friend Amanda Kristovich at Front Office Sports. She just put out an article on it. But an interesting scenario where there are criminal charges against a strength and conditioning coach relating to first day drills, put it that way. A criminal case because of a player that has, we'll get into it. Brendan Sorsby, we're going to hit on quick. His saga has definitely not ended, leaving a trail of tears. Talk about Sorsby. And then the two that just popped up literally as we were hitting record, the the injunction issued in the state of Ohio due to the new age rule, and that's the 5-year rule. We'll talk about it quickly. We didn't talk about it much from last year. I think we hit it very, very quickly. So we'll talk about the impact of that. And then Paige Shiver, Sharon Moore. Paige Shiver is the former assistant of Sharon Moore that was at the heart of all those allegations that led to Sharon Moore leaving, has now sued the school and is looking for disclosure. Mike, did you see Disclosure Day? Did you see Disclosure?
I haven't. I'm one of those. I told you, bad bad movie people and show people.
Well, I think one of the last podcasts we did, we talked about GOAT. Remember we talked about GOAT, the movie?
I think so. That was yeah. Oh yeah, a couple of times ago, and I did watch that. I loved it.
You did like that?
I loved it. It was hype.
Okay. It was hype? Is that a new word that we're saying now?
I mean, it's a little Gen Z word, I'll throw that out there. Gotta get to the Gen Z audience. That's why I'm here, right?
Sure. Sounds good. Yeah, that's totally why. That's why we have you here, and that's why the Timberwolves traded for LaMelo Ball. Like, it's
exactly.
They want the Gen Z audience. We want the Gen Z audience. Okay. Let us start with Kawhi Leonard. So months ago, this was the fall of 25, not years ago, months ago. I remember we talked about on the podcast, I remember telling my law students about this really interesting case with Aspiration. And it was this kind of weird company that Steve Ballmer, the Clippers owner, had some connections to. And it was really an allegation of what we would refer to, like in the Joe Smith days. Mike, I think I'm going to quiz you momentarily on Joe Smith. Let's see if you can figure out why I'm quizzing you, Mike. But this was an allegation, and the NBA launched this very big investigation. There were some reports that around NBA All-Star Weekend they were going to come out with their findings. They did not. There's still no findings. But the allegations essentially were that the Los Angeles Clippers, in courting Kawhi Leonard, gave him a max contract, which is undisputed. We all know that. That's confirmed. But that they gave him some sweetener on the side, and that was by way of a no-show marketing deal through this company, Aspiration. I think it's Aspire, right?
Aspiration. No, you're correct.
Aspiration? Okay. Aspiration. So they started doing, and this is a Pablo Torre, probably is one of his first things that got him on the map post ESPN. Does this full expose, and it looks like, there's some commonality. Steve Ballmer's involved, and this looks really odd. And Steve Ballmer's this kind of like A-level owner, and it's not, Donald Sterling situation. It's not it's not an owner like a Dan Snyder. It's like Steve Ballmer's like one of the main guys. So like, maybe the NBA is inclined to sweep this under the rug, but like it's Kawhi Leonard and the teams want to investigate it. So this seems like something that we should have had some findings on a long time ago, but it kept kicking and kicking. And I think most people kind of forgot about it. That's generally the NBA's, NFL, Major League Baseball, hockey, whoever, their MO is like delay, and then people will forget about a story. And then like, maybe we can do whatever we want. Okay. So we haven't heard much. Maybe they swept it under the rug. Okay. But like, I think the other owners were kind of concerned what was happening. And the team that probably was the loudest, we'll say at the moment, or at least had the motivation to be the loudest, was the Toronto Raptors. Because the Toronto Raptors lost Kawhi Leonard. They won the championship. Kawhi Leonard then goes to the Clippers. And you would think the Raptors wanted to retain Kawhi Leonard, but they could not because of this offer that they could not match in some way, shape, or form. Okay. Mike, something interesting happens that Kawhi Leonard signs with the Toronto Raptors. So there had been some chatter like, okay, I guess everything's being swept under the rug. It's all good. Everything's clear. Toronto Raptors definitely checked in with the league before, they made this transaction. And we find out today, Mike, we're recording this on Thursday, July 9th. Mike, do you have the verbiage? What's the verbiage coming out of, what is this, on hold? What is the verbiage that we're hearing?
Yeah, they're saying this exactly right. On hold. That the trade is on hold indefinitely is the term that they use too. It's just until this investigation is concluded, which is indeed indefinitely. There's no
That's bizarre.
Definite end date here. Yeah.
So it's on hold for like, this is what I don't, well, I had heard, and maybe I'm pretty sure I had seen a report that the Raptors checked in on the investigation. Whatever they heard, they completed the deal. So this is like, and this is probably part of it, why I think it's the on hold for an indefinite nature for something that's happened more than 6 months ago. I think it's probably 8 months ago, right? Mike, when did we first get the news on?
Yeah, September. So almost 10 months ago. Or 10 months ago.
10 months ago. So what are they waiting for? And now you're in a situation where the Raptors might be placed in a weird spot because their assets, so to speak, are frozen while like we're in the middle of the LeBron sweepstakes. And where is and maybe Kawhi, right? Maybe if Kawhi doesn't end up going to Toronto, what happens as a result of that? So I don't recall a situation similar to this. So Mike, your thoughts on this situation?
Yeah, everywhere that I've seen, yeah, I haven't heard anyone say a peep about it, whether this is historically normal or whether Kawhi is actually going to be pushed through. Because, like you mentioned, there was a lot of time between September 2025 and July 9th today where the Raptors either A, could have done their due diligence, or B, we could have been, as I guess fans or the public, alarm or alerted about this, as it was all but set and done. They agreed to trade pretty significant players too. Like, the trade is not just Kawhi is going to go sign with the Raptors. It's a trade between the Clippers and the Raptors, and it's the Clippers getting significant players back: Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick, two first round picks, or sorry, two first round
Big
picks, and
deal.
then a pick swap and another
Yeah.
2 second round. Like, this is a massive trade, one of the
Well,
largest of the offseason.
well,
So
the interesting part too is, like, let's say the trade gets shot down for whatever reason, and they say like Kawhi is like just too nuclear to trade, right? He's got to stay with the Clippers so they can punish the Clippers, right? Like, maybe those assets would have been used for one of these other trades, be it the LaMelo trade, Jaylen Brown. I think the Kawhi trade happened before the Jaylen Brown trade, correct?
yes, that is correct. That did happen, and it's just weird to me, like you had said, the timing of when this took place, just in the sense of, yes, would they have gone after Jaylen Brown? Would they have gone after some
But
of
you
the
would think they
others?
would have had. It doesn't make sense that they wouldn't have had pre-approval for the trade, and like, and maybe they just said, "F it, let's do it." But I have to think there were conversations that occurred, like for example, right? We talked about this a couple like months ago. The Terry Rozier trade, when he was traded to the Miami Heat, like the Miami Heat didn't know about that gambling investigation. Like, it was kind of like swept under the rug. Like, they didn't know about it. You and I know about the Kawhi investigation, so clearly the Raptors know about it. So like, I think it's fair to assume that the Raptors knew to check in. Like, they knew to at least ask the Clippers what's going on, or the league what's going on. So on hold is such an odd term. And let's say this goes further. Let's say you're the Celtics and you're getting so much heat for this trade that you just made to get rid of Jaylen Brown. And you got, like, what people are saying, which I think you and I can say as well, just an odd trade. Timing was odd. Everything was odd about it. Maybe you would have rather got Kawhi Leonard. Maybe the Raptors were in the sweepstakes. Maybe the Clippers were in the sweepstakes. Like, we have no idea. But for that trade to be called on hold for no time frame is odd. Odd, Mike.
I don't think that they can or will be blocking the trade, like the league itself, for any really specific reason, since they don't have a result yet of this investigation. I guess, what are you going to do
Well,
when it comes to the league
like,
disciplinary with Kawhi?
I mean, it's harder to punish the Clippers if Kawhi's gone, and they basically got 100 cents on the dollar for this asset that's Kawhi. So I don't know. I find the whole thing just, I'm putting it as odd that, and I'm not just saying it's not like a throwaway term, like the, like, not to use this, I mean, whatever, it's fine. The Raptors handling this is at odds with what would be NBA protocol. Just doesn't, like, why is the trade being announced? Maybe the Raptors, right, who ostensibly were the ones that maybe leaked this trade, maybe they put this through conditionally, and the NBA said, possible, don't announce this. We want to just make sure everything's clear. And then the Raptors were just like, we're going to do this. Right? There's just something off about this. Like, again, the NBA is not a publicly traded league. We're never really going to find out. But the whole way this is handled is just strange. So, Mike, I did allude that I was going to quiz you on something Joe Smith related. First of all, do you know who Joe Smith is?
Yeah, I mean, I know the name. I think I know the name. Sound like I played basketball, no
Did play
journeyman, and that's all I
basketball.
know. That journeyman, that's it. But maybe I
Um,
know another thing.
it doesn't sound like you know another thing. Joe Smith, former first overall pick in the 1995 NBA draft. I believe it was the Timberwolves, but yeah, it was Timberwolves. So he signs these like bizarre series of. He's like number one overall pick in the draft. So, like, obviously the guy's pretty good, out of Maryland. Signs. He's drafted by Golden State, and then he signs this as a 1, 2, 3 as a fourth-year player. He signs these like very suspicious below market. I think they were $1 million deals. It was like nothing. Oh, you're gonna like this, Mike. Mike, keep this in. Don't edit this out. Don't edit this out because you'll like where I'm going with the trivia. Yeah, he signs these very. So he played for the Golden State Warriors on his rookie deal, and I think he maybe was traded to one team in between 2.5 million, 2.7 million, 3.1 million. So like I don't know, not like huge money, but that's like the old days of the NBA. First overall pick, and then he hits free agency. So he's like pretty solid his first couple of years, 15 points, 18 points, 14 points. So, Mike, time for him to cash in, right?
I would say so.
Signs these like very little $1 million deals. Like,
oh, wow.
And everyone's like, that's odd. That's weird. And it comes out through an investigation that the Timberwolves paid him some amount on the books, 1 million or whatever, 1 million change, and then found a way to pay him off the books and found other ways to pay him. And the Timberwolves were slammed. They were killed. They lost first round picks, forfeitures, all this fun stuff. And it's really never happened. I want to say it's never happened again. Obviously, not that we would know of. There's obviously been some reports of tampering, this and this, but not like blatant salary cap circumvention. So that was a Joe Smith where he took like a very low amount, and it was so obvious. Like, why is he taking less than market? That that's why they look into it. And they ended up finding the right thing. Kawhi took a max contract, so he couldn't have taken any. He didn't take less. But then again, did they pay him more on top? So we'll find this out. And just as a reminder to our listeners and those that did not hear that episode, if it's determined that the Clippers did do what they were alleged to have done, and there's forfeiture of a ton of draft picks, maybe Mike with the new, maybe this is what it is. The new draft pick rules that this top 5 protections, all this crazy stuff. It's possible that's where there's some hesitancy. They're getting draft picks back, but they might be losing draft picks as a result. If they're getting punished, they're going to lose draft picks. I can almost certainly tell you that just because of the nature of the punishment. But here we are. So, Mike, here's the draft. Here's the question I have for you, and it's about this 1995 NBA draft where Joe Smith was taken first overall. You were not ready for this, but I'm going to make you ready.
I wasn't born already.
So I was born in the lovely year of 1988. So I was like 7 years old when these drafts were happening. So, when my friends, like I was away this past weekend in lovely Bermuda. If you think I look tan, Mike, that's because I was in lovely Bermuda for a friend's 40th birthday party. And, this group of friends were all kind of like sports nuts, and we all get around and we just do quizzes on NBA draft trivia. And I had, or NFL draft trivia or any random thing. So I have trivia from this it's actually the 95 draft. That is for you, Mike. And any listeners that know this, you can test yourself. And maybe we'll throw this out. Mike, in the 1995 NBA draft, there were 2 teammates from the University of North Carolina selected back-to-back in the top 5. Okay? If you need it, there were picks 3 and 4. It's pretty odd. I'm not going to tell you their names. Now, in 1998, 3 years later, something odd happened. 2 teammates from the University of North Carolina were again selected back-to-back at picks number 4 and number 5. Mike, can you tell me any of these UNC players? And actually, as a fun fact, the 1998 NBA draft, these players were actually traded for each other. 4 was traded for 5. So teammates from the same school traded for each other. I just need one, Mike. I just need one.
I'll give you, so Rasheed Wallace, I know for sure.
Rasheed Wallace, yes.
That one I know for sure in 95.
From Chappelle Show fame, yes.
Yeah.
I'm aware of him.
95. I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I couldn't tell.
We're gonna leave this one as a cliffhanger. If any of our lovely diehard listeners want to message us, put it in the comments of LinkedIn. We're just gonna try some fun stuff, or you could just look it up on NBA Draft Reference. It's all good. Okay, Mike, let us move on. I just had to. I love 90s draft trivia. It's great. Michael Oliver County, shout out to the only draftee ever from the University of Pacific. Yeah, I think so. Number 1 overall. Cool. Flo Balogun, Mike. So speaking of my trip recently, we got on a plane on Thursday. So the USA game was Wednesday night. We get this crazy red card. I'm driving to the airport like the crack of dawn, and I'm like, can't believe I'm almost cursed. Balogun's out for the next game. It's crazy. My friends are asking me, is there any way that you can appeal this red card? I'm like looking at all these different reports from soccer people. I'm like, I don't think so. I think the VAR, like the review was the appeal. I don't think there's an appeal. So we get in the plane, watching all these different World Cup games. We're all like, yeah, USA's probably going to lose. No Flo Balogun. We're probably screwed, whatever. Okay, Mike, we learn of a new rule that was dusted off that no one had paid attention to, that potentially you could get a red card overturned. But apparently this rule only came to fruition because of the heavyweight of the U.S. government, Donald Trump, calling in a favor. Mike, I think this has been discussed ad nauseum. USA already lost. Flo Balogun was, I don't want to say he was a non-factor, but he was just fine. It's not. We were going to win with him. We're going to lose with him. Lose without him wasn't that big of a deal. Mike, I'll frame it to you like this. What do you think this means long term for World Cup or international sports? Like FIBA tournaments or the Olympics, where the optics is certainly that the host country or a country leaned on the head of the sporting association to get a decision dusted off that hasn't been used since like the 70s. I'm less concerned with the legality of it. Like I'm just more concerned with the impact of this. Thoughts, Mike?
I think the impact is pretty much unchanged, in my opinion. I think that we've been seeing FIFA, whether you want to call it corruption or influence by the host countries and cities forever. And I don't think it's really anything different. I think obviously the more that things are covered and the more day-to-day social media and podcasts like this exist, we're going to bring more attention and story to it. And I understand like maybe this specific rule had not been implemented or this specific avenue has not been taken, in long number of years. But the red card itself, I do want to like throw out there because I think that this is relatively misinterpreted, is that the red card itself wasn't actually overturned by FIFA, but the suspension was reversed. So the actual suspension for the period of suspension was completely gone. Like they actually reversed that, whereas the red card still existed, but it's neither here nor there, obviously, with how the game ended up. But I think, the neutrality problem has been there forever when it comes to FIFA in their wherever the World Cup is being stationed, and I don't see that changing really anytime soon. Depending on the countries, when you see major countries like the U.S., Russia hosting, the Olympics previously, like a lot of those major countries just. This is always at the forefront of it. And I think this was just our version, the United States version of the FIFA questionable governance, I would say, that's been happening.
Like if we really look at it, obviously, I don't want to say like you and I aren't concerned with the law. Like I think Belgium, and I'm full disclosure, Mike, I'm 1/8 Belgian. Okay. 1/8 Belgian.
Make waffles.
Yeah. There wasn't really anything bad to say about Belgium other than the waffles. Like there's no like geopolitical.
Fake Germany. That's what I call them.
Sure. They were correct, right? Like this is unfair. This is injustice. And they're citing all these different sections of the code. We're not going to get into it. I just thought like Belgium, you're our big brother, right? Like this is the furthest we've ever gone in the World Cup. Like Flo Balogun. And in hindsight, I think Belgium, I think who looks worse on the grand scheme of things, maybe it's a hot take, maybe our Belgian listenership will be offended at this. I think Belgium looks worse. Like, let us play with our best 11, right? Like, it's not like this was an egregious foul. It's not like I'm saying, hey, this guy committed murder, so we should let him play because we should play with our best 11. It was an egregious call at the time. We had done some digging, some friends, like the referee in question, there were the characters involved in this decision were not squeaky clean, so to speak. There was some questions as to why he got a red card in the first place when, VAR detected that they should review this. And there was the same exact play with Messi, earlier in the World Cup tournament. We're going to talk about the Egypt-Argentina game momentarily. But the whole FIFA is corrupt, right? So Belgium, you're our big brother, right? You're a real team. We are not. You have plenty of players in the EPL, just legends in their respective country. We don't have that. So you guys look pretty dumb. You're crying that we're going afoul of the law where you guys beat us 4-1 with our quote unquote best player. So, I think FIFA though, to the point that I raised to you, I think FIFA has opened up, and again, you and I are a little bit biased in the situation. I think you and I as fans can say, let's play with our best 11, right? Let's overturn it. Two wrongs don't make a right necessarily. And again, for sporting purposes, I wanted to see USA lose 4-1 with their best player, at least so we could say there's nothing left on the table. But this does open up Pandora's box for any leader of a country to at least to at least give the optics that they let into this. Like FIFA could have put out a statement. President Trump is just saying this. He had no impact on what we did, but we didn't hear that. We heard silence. And then, Mike, in the wake of this kind of saga, the next high profile red card occurs in this England-Mexico game where I think the player is Quanson, something with a Q. I didn't think his tackle was like that bad. I think it was red card worthy, which I think everyone would agree with. Gets a 2-game ban. And I think they're laying it down. And Mike, USA is obviously in a different geopolitical situation as Egypt. I'll say this, and then did you watch the Argentina-Egypt game?
No, just the highlights that were unbelievable.
I'd say that was the most egregious thing that I've ever seen in a World Cup game ever, and it was 100 times more egregious than Balogun's fake red card. Egypt's up 1-0. Okay, Egypt scores. They score down. They go up 2-0. Okay. Somehow they start reviewing a foul that occurred, Mike, allegedly against Egypt, putting in quotes, like not a real foul, a fake foul, on the complete other side of the field. And they said, well, because this foul occurred before Egypt technically scored, we're taking Egypt's goal off the board. It was not something that occurred like in the box or like relating to the play. It had nothing to do with the play. So don't get me started on like VAR not being necessary anymore, but they literally took a goal off the board for something that had nothing to do with the play. It was on the complete other side of the field. So ball don't lie. Egypt goes down and scores again to make it 2-0. Okay, so they really were up 3-0, but let's call it 2-0. And obviously, as fate would have it, Argentina comes down and they scored a 3-2. The Egypt coach on the sideline is going crazy. Okay, and he's screaming like, well, every time Argentina scores, we have to look if there's a foul that occurred anytime in the last 5 minutes before they scored because we could overturn it. And like that's just to say on a larger point, FIFA is so corrupt. And like I do think that they move with the wind, right? I just don't recall a situation where a red card gets overturned so blatantly. Like there were certainly some reports that I think Cristiano Ronaldo, because of prior like conduct during friendlies or other yellow cards, should have missed some games in the group stage for Portugal, but they swiped it under the rug. But like no one's paying attention to the friendlies ahead of time. No one's paying attention to other international competitions. But on this grand stage, and again, I get that this might take as someone on both sides. Like, yeah, I want USA to play with all 11 guys. We're going to lose anyway. It's not a big deal. But like, I do think it's pretty bad that they're not checking Trump and saying like, yeah, Trump didn't help us. We made this decision on our own for the betterment of the game. Like they could have said that, like, best interest of the game, right? Like they could have said like, we just want to have all 11 to play. I'm okay with that. But now Trump is saying like, I put my political pressure on FIFA and they caved to me because I made a phone call. Like I don't love that, Mike. I think that's what that.
You're surprised or you just don't love it? Because I think it's been pretty clear, like the Gianni Infantino has been very much a close Trump supporter. He's publicly come out and said that everyone should be supporting the president's work, created a FIFA Peace Prize that he awarded to Trump. Like I think that the relationship between Trump and leaders at FIFA definitely would be the the driving factor to this as to why it doesn't surprise me. I feel like we've seen this for months now, all the way back, even a year. I mean, it's been almost a year now, or it has been a year now of FIFA's support of Trump. So it doesn't come as too much of a shock to me. And like you said, I do hope that this doesn't open Pandora's box for just a complete mess, because that is unfortunately sometimes what video replay does bring, is a lot more of a mess than the cleanup that it's intended for. But yeah, I feel like I saw this coming. Anything that was even remotely out of place for the U.S. team would probably be solved, and here we are. But you can't solve getting destroyed. So it was a good run.
Yeah, I'm like so unenthusiastic about the World Cup now. But it is what it is.
Well, you should. Hey, we'll talk about it later. But you should.
No, let's do it quick. I have a big bet. If it wins, it wins. That's why I was a little bit pissed about Argentina. If I have this bet, Europe to win the World Cup, I thought it was a really good bet. Yeah, I paid some juice. I think it was like minus 210.
263, you said.
Minus 263. Thank you for keeping me in check. I'm not looking at this bet anymore. I'm sick of the World Cup. Minus 263. We pay the juice. But I like the bet a lot. And, there's just a lot of statistics that it's almost impossible to win the World Cup in back-to-back years. Messi's a lot older. The team doesn't really have the same bones. And Messi's basically eliminated from the World Cup. They're down 2-0 in like the 75th minute, and somehow they win 3-2 in regulation, which is like impossible. But here we are, Mike. So we have Argentina and Morocco are the only non-European teams left. I think Morocco is going to get destroyed today. I don't think Morocco has any chance of winning. But Argentina, corruption be gone. I think Argentina is not going to lose again. So not thrilled by it. But like that bet, I have another bet at the end of the podcast. But let us we'll table that. I like my Europe bet. And I love my favorite game of the World Cup so far, England versus Mexico. That was just like electric, Mike. The Azteca, at altitude. I could be wrong. I think England might be a team of destiny. Let's see.
Okay.
I think if it's not France, and I don't want it to be Argentina, Spain is a boring pick. Like England, Mike. Okay, Mike. Let us move on. I'm going to lay out. Mike, can you kind of give us the backdrop on the Bucknell situation? And we're going to cover next 4 all going to be college. We'll try to, I think we're okay on time. Mike, let's give us the lay of the land on the Bucknell strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah, really unfortunate situation coming out of Bucknell. Like you mentioned, probably not many stories to come out of Bucknell so far on the podcast. But, I think this is also a story that shows that how long things take in the courtroom and to go from the incident to, solution and resolution. So for background, Bucknell's former football strength and conditioning coach Mark Kolbus was previously on staffs at Dartmouth, Ohio State, had the background and the skills apparently. But so on July 10th, 2024, we're going all the way back, 2 years now, almost 2 exact years. We're recording on July 9th, so when this comes out, it'll be exactly 2 years from when you guys are listening. But so Mark Kolbus was on the strength and conditioning coaching side on Bucknell. A couple of Bucknell freshmen reported for their first practice that was led by Kolbus, one of them being CJ Dickey Jr. as the incoming freshman. Players were required to perform extensive calisthenics, they claimed, including more than 100 up-downs. CJ Dickey Jr., the incoming freshman, was visibly struggling, and he collapsed and was rushed to the hospital on July 10th of 2024. July 12th, 2024, just 2 days later, unfortunately, CJ Dickey Jr. had passed away just 2 days after collapsing. And then not even a year later, it was about 7-8 months later, Mark Kolbus actually leaves Bucknell. And in that same 2025, this past year, Dickey's parents brought a civil negligence and wrongful death action against Bucknell, which is still ongoing. And then as of right now, we got some updates on July 6th this past week. The Pennsylvania Attorney General Dave Sunday actually charged Mark Kolbus and was arraigned that morning with bail set at $10,000. The charges were felony aggravated hazing, misdemeanor involuntary manslaughter, reckless endangerment, hazing. And it's interesting, I think, especially the hazing point, because attorneys told Front Office Sports, working in college sports and, speaking with some people that have been in there for decades, it's really never seen a hazing law applied to a death resulting from team practice activities. A lot of, unfortunately, deaths do happen from summer practices and, incoming freshmen, and it really doesn't matter the, age or class year, but those summer practices and team workouts are generally much more strenuous and much more difficult than, the in-season training. So especially with the heat, you never really know how to handle that. But that is really the big part of this case. Is it's not the pre-existing conditions that we normally see from, these untimely deaths, but this time they're going straight at the hazing aspect of this. So it's interesting, the actual hazing law rests on Pennsylvania's 2017 hazing law that was enacted after a fraternity hazing death on Penn State. Provides that excessive physical activity can constitute hazing, but it contains an exception that for team practices, stating that reasonable training activities are not hazing. So it's really that question of, are these reasonable training activities? Is it hazing? Does it go and reach that bar of hazing? And I think there's those two answers that they may have is the Attorney General's office actually came out and says the exercises were done in spite of training and direction from other coaches, that the actual exercises were not appropriate or safe for use as part of training. So the reckless element is kind of there, I think, I would imagine. And then second, really, and I think even more damning about this is that Bucknell was aware that CJ Dickey Jr. had sickle cell trait. So there is that pre-existing, aspect, but it's a condition that makes extreme exercise obviously way more dangerous, and the NCAA requires testing. So that, the sickle cell trait plus the extreme exertion, unfortunately, took the life of CJ Dickey Jr. And that's why I think something like a screening like that exists. And, it's here we are now, Bucknell continuing an ongoing lawsuit. But in terms of Mark Kolbus, their former strength and conditioning coach, charged with felonies. And from there, that's kind of the big story out of Bucknell. I mean, unfortunately, it's like, like you said, there's not too much to come out of Bucknell, on a day to day, especially in the new NIL era. I'm sure there's a lot of work to be done, on that side of things. But if Kolbus is convicted and still, serves actual jail time, which we're not sure yet.
So, Mike, I think it's worthy, before we go on, I think it's worthy of just some like statutory interpretation or just like reading comp. By my view, I don't think what occurred here is necessarily a crime. I am a little bit surprised that he was charged with the crime. When you read the statute, like, I guess by definition, the offense defined, it does meet the criterion, but then there's this important limitation. So we're looking at section 2802. We're on lovely Westlaw. This is the definition, right? So it probably meets this, right? Then there's an important limitation. So it says offense defined. A person commits the offense of hazing if the person intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly for the purpose of initiating, admitting, or affiliating a minor or student into or with an organization for the purpose of continuing or enhancing a minor student's membership or status in an organization, causes or forces a student to any of the following, endure any activity that causes a reasonable likelihood of bodily injury to the minor student. So, like, yes, the like freshman orientation or like the football orientation for like a bunch of freshmen for the purpose of initiating, admitting in, or getting them into an organization. Like, yeah, like, okay, I guess that's kind of hazing, but like hazing that you and I think most people define hazing as like fraternity hazing. So I don't view it as like, like, I don't know, strength and conditioning training, which like I had to do. Like I tried to walk on to Union College's D3 soccer team. Mike, they made us run miles and miles and miles. Like, it did not go well. But I wouldn't call that like, endure any other activity that creates a reasonable likelihood of bodily injury to the minor student. Like, I don't know, me running like 10 miles, which we didn't run at Union, it's probably less than that. But like, I don't know, it's not bodily injury. But I think here, Mike, at least my understanding when I looked around, I think this was like burpees. Like, it wasn't like me deciding to hang a football player upside down from the ceiling for 12 hours at a time. Like, I understand it to be like strength and conditioning exercises, but done in excess. Is that your understanding as well?
Yeah, I read 100 up downs and like.
Yeah, but the fact that they're up downs and burpees, normal, right? That's what it was. Like,
yeah,
like,
those are very normal.
But you and I know what those are called. Like, those aren't crazy. I mean, maybe they're done in excess, but like, if you just told me, hey, like I wrestled my senior year of high school. Like, I don't know, we had to lose weight. Like, we had to do a lot of things. So 100 burpees is not like crazy, but again, like, we need to know the context. And obviously there's a player with a pre-existing condition that adds some to it. Mike, here's the really important quote unquote limitation section C of section 2802 of the Pennsylvania statute. Hazing shall not include reasonable and customary athletic, law enforcement, or military training, contests, competitions, or events. Reasonable and customary athletic training, contests, competitions, or events. The fact that you and I know what an up down is or a burpee is, and we know this is like, like there's an orientation and a training to be a part of a football team, like
summer workouts.
Yeah, summer workout. Like, that's a thing. I think they're going to have and again, We don't know all the facts of this case. We're not going to. And the fact that someone died is completely tragic. I think there is liability here. It's liability on the school when someone dies, right? Like you have an understanding that a player has a pre-existing condition. I just don't think it meets this statute. And there are other statutes that strength and conditioning coach has been charged with, but I don't really view this as hazing. And obviously, we've talked about it a ton of times on this podcast. Criminal prosecutors are inclined to charge the most serious thing that they could possibly charge, and then they ask the defendant to plead to a lesser included offense. So, like, I think that's what's happening. I don't really love the precedent that's being set by this charge. But then again, there is a death of a player, and you want to hold someone accountable. And the way you hold them accountable is by charging them with the most serious thing you could possibly look at and say, like, we could get away with charges. It's not completely in bad faith. I just think, Mike, you and I don't have a lot of time to look at the Pennsylvania legislature in a section, but I think that limitation was created for that purpose. Hazing shall not include reasonable and customary athletic, training, contests, competitions, or events. So that, to me, is reasonable athletic training. Again, it can be done in excess, but someone's free to disagree, but I think that's an important part of the case that I definitely lost in the headline. Like, it's not, Mike, it's not like, again, like I'm using the example, if they hung the entire team upside down from the ceiling and let them stay there for 10 hours, right? And it was like a wrestling team and they were putting them in a sauna and they were trying to make them lose weight, hanging them upside down. Like, that's crazy. That's nuts. I've never heard of that. So that would not be something that's quote unquote reasonable and customary, because you and I have never heard of it. Like, I've heard of up downs. I've heard of burpees. I've heard of summer workouts. I've heard of a workout for a football program to get into shape. So, I think the defense is going to have a lot to work with, but there's obviously other charges here that are not as easy to get around. Mike, are we good on this one?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
Okay, let's, I got to pick up the kids at the bus stop in a few, 20 minutes, Mike. We good? Can we sneak this on?
Let's do it.
Okay. Brendan Sorsby, we'll hit this one quick. The saga is not over. The NCAA is looking into his conduct at Cincinnati, and it makes sense because if Brendan Sorsby, right, we talk about this a lot. We talk about a player like right now, Kawhi Leonard, perfect one, that's getting traded, that's leaving the program. What do the Clippers know about Kawhi Leonard that they're letting him go? What do the Charlotte Hornets know? What did they know about Terry Rozier when they were letting him go? What did Cincinnati know about Brendan Sorsby when he was with the program? They said he was placing a number of bets on Cincinnati, relating to Cincinnati while he was with the program. What did Cincinnati know? And I think the NCAA, we don't have a sniff of what they did or didn't know, but I think the NCAA is sending that message that they're looking into Cincinnati, I think is important. And if Cincinnati has their hands clean, so be it. I have to imagine Cincinnati fought to keep the player Sorsby in their program, but that's certainly going to be part of the investigation. How hard did Cincinnati fight to keep the player in their program? That was, by all accounts, on paper, a first or second round talent. But that's cross that off. That's just we're looking at it. Sorsby situation is not done. Mike, do you want me to do the Ohio one? Do you want me to do this quick? Or
yeah, go for it. Absolutely. No, you've been doing a lot of work in that world,
sure.
So
I'm ready. I had a client call me. I'm not going to obviously reveal any client confidence, but it's a very big rule. June 23rd, probably right before we recorded the last podcast, the NCAA passed this really interesting 5-year rule. So the 5-year rule is intended to essentially kill a lot of birds at the same time. It's intended to get rid of this like red shirts, like a medical red shirt. It's intended to like stop players from playing until they're like 30 years old. Like it intending to do a lot of things that people complain about the space. Like players just will go to the local courts and they'll get an injunction to play another year. And like, this should be the rule. So we didn't really cover it that much in the last episode. I had a client contact me, or a new client, asking about how their student was affected, and explained to them that there's a lot of litigation challenging this rule. It's not going to, right now, the NCAA can say whatever rule they want. They can't really stop people from going to the courts and challenging these. So, but in theory, the rule is such that if a player has turned 19 by the start of the academic year, their clock is starting regardless of anything else. So like, yeah, you could hope that you get a medical hardship afterwards. The NCAA is saying that you're not going to get it. You could hope to do that, but like, it's going to incentivize a bunch of kids just go to school immediately, not do this fun thing, which was also an issue at the high school level, which you've seen kids kind of repeating their 8th grade year to get like better NIL deals in high school, or repeating their senior year in high school if they're going to be a starter in their interstate where they can make high school NIL money. So it kills a lot of birds. Like, I understand why the NCAA did it. because you have that rule. And, I was speaking to someone whose child had a late birthday, who would have turned 19 at the start of the academic year by September 1st of 2026. So I said, hey, assuming this rule, assuming being in italics and bold and underlined and all the fun stuff, assuming this rule passes, yeah, like it's going to screw your kid because the clock is going to start because he's already going to be 19 at the time of September 1st. Mike, that big assume, I had it gave the client a very nice disclaimer about the case is pending, going to court. So we'll say a very short while after, we have an injunction issued by the state of Ohio relating to a suit filed by a number of players that were class of 2022 graduates, that this 5-year rule specifically impacted them because jig would have been up, right? Like they're not going to get that additional year that they might have gotten. So it's a win for those athletes that's issued. And obviously an injunction issued in the state of Ohio is not going to be binding precedent across the country. But it's still the same issue that we come on this podcast every time. And it's making me a little bit jaded in this space. Like when I have to bold and underline and italicize, assuming it holds up in the courts, it's like I can't tell a client, I can't tell anybody, like I guarantee you the kids are going to win in court because like it benefits. Like if you go to an Ohio court for Ohio State-based athletes and these kids getting additional eligibility is going to benefit in directly or indirectly the state of Ohio, like they're winning at an alarming frequency. So, I think the rule was well intentioned. I don't want anyone to accuse me of being pro player, whatnot, but it's hitting a lot of things that purists or people in the space like, hey, why are kids repeating 8th grade? Like that's kind of crazy. Like, why are we having college athletes play until like they're 28? Like that's kind of weird. Like you couldn't say purist, maybe purist is a bad word, but like it's okay to have some law and order to the world that we live in. And like 5 years means 5 years. Like I don't mind the concept of the rule, but it looks like we'll call it round one to the players. Friend of the show, Sam Ehrlich, had a good tweet I saw. Round one to the players, but like it's every state. Like I'm going to be shocked if a state doesn't agree with this. And it's like, I don't know. It's like punching someone with their hands tied behind their back. It's like, okay, great. Like we talk about this UFC fight momentarily. Maybe you didn't know that, but I was planning on talking about it. If you're in a fist fight and the NCAA like is just losing constantly, like okay, like great, it's a big win for players, but like, can't we have some real decision? Like, why is it taking 5 years for there to be either right one of the two things, like federal legislation or unionization? One of the two things to create some order, but we have not created the proper incentives for either the players or the federal government to get it done. Obviously, like I don't know, I'm just throwing my hands up. Like I think the NCAA really. I think this rule was well intentioned. It's as close as I'm going to do to giving the NCAA a compliment. But like this rule accomplished a lot of things, and it's basically DOA at this point.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, we've talked about it at nauseum almost over the last number of years, and I'm right there with you. I think it was a great, like I said, finally given some props to the NCAA, and came unshockingly, possibly crashing down very quickly, but. I guess we'll see. I think there has to be, like you said, a solution in some capacity before the next season starts, because do you think we can keep going another year like this? Or I guess that's the intention of just going another college football year with just uncertainty on anything beyond just this season, even mid-season. You just never know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think it's really dumb. And I just, maybe people don't, like, I talk to a lot of parents that are in the space and they're just like, what happens? Like, I'm going to give a hypothetical situation. Freshman kid comes to school and there's a senior. And it's like, okay, yeah, the senior's having a great year. And like the freshman kid is promised playing time after this year. Like, hey, you're going to learn for a year under the senior and you're going to compete for a job against sophomore and some other freshmen. So like 3 guys, you're all competing for the job. And senior has a great year and just like, yeah, I'm going to stay another year. It's like it's not a victimless crime. Like you can be anti that rule and still be pro player. Like Mike, I was a philosophy major in college. We learned about this fun concept called utilitarianism, and it's like utilitarianism is the greatest good for the greatest amount of people. I guess you could make an argument for me that like, yeah, having a senior repeat a year, if he's that good, it's good for the program. It's good for college football. It's higher level college football. Like, you can make that argument to me. But on a human being level, I just don't think it's fair for people to have no reliability as to what's going to happen. And like a call I had with a client the other day, without mentioning any specifics, like I said, yeah, like it depends on what the NCAA and the compliance department is. You could always go to the courts and challenge it. It's like, yeah, but I don't want to go to the courts. And I'm like, rock in a hard place. So what we've really done is like incentivized and created a system that favors those who have access to the courts, which is just like so stupid. And I'm saying that as a lawyer that would probably benefit by like more things going to the courts in general, but like I just think it's really dumb. I think it's really dumb that we keep having to go to the courts like over and over to fight these things that we've never had to fight at the collegiate level for decades on decades and decades. And like, so someone's going to tell me the sport is thriving and it's great and it's amazing. It's just like, I just don't. And there's a non-insignificant amount of people that are involved with the space that's not fair too. And so, yeah, it's a win for the players, sure, but it's also a loss for some of the parents that just like want to have some reliability on the space. Okay, 5 years is 5 years. We get it. Great. It's a rule. It's clear. We got it. Moving on. But like, no, we can't. So now we're back. It's great. It's fantastic. Okay, Mike, last topic on the docket. This was one similarly that we broke at the like 11th hour right before we were about to record. Paige Shiver is the former, can we say former mistress? Is that okay?
I guess so. Yeah, that's right. It's out there. It's official.
I don't think it's an alleged mistress. I think
You're
she's
right.
a former
That's what I'm saying.
mistress.
It's official.
And mistress just implies that he had a relationship with her.
Yeah, he was having an affair.
Yeah, I don't think we have to say alleged. I think we can
No.
just say mistress. I think that's just a legal term, right?
That's fair.
Yeah, let's keep it in. It's fine. So jokes aside, it's a pretty serious allegation, right? Paige Shiver. People can look it up. I'm not gonna go over the ugly parts of the allegations, but Paige Shiver has launched a lawsuit against the University of Michigan under the Freedom of Information Act, and she's looking for basically internal communications originating from Michigan, between Michigan and Sharon Moore, between Michigan and the outside law firm. They want, recordings of interviews that Paige Shiver and those recorded around the instance. I think it is setting up for a very large lawsuit. It's a precursor to that lawsuit. So, Mike, it's still kind of an unfolding story, and we were trying to get access to the complaint as we were hitting record, but I figured it would just helpful just to kind of lay up to see what we think it is. But if someone is suing under the Freedom of Information Act, like you could just get a court order to provide those documents. But if you're suing under the Freedom of Information Act, it seems like a precursor to a larger lawsuit that will occur. And yeah, I mean, with the severity of the nature of this case, like her name is just out there. Like she doesn't really have much to lose at this point. And Sharon Moore is going through, criminal proceedings. It's a really ugly case. The question that you and I had when this news broke, I think it was December. It was December when this news broke. I remember where I was when I heard the news. It was, again, just so listeners know when the news breaks and they have some further context. Michigan fired Sharon Moore after the loss to Ohio State, like after the season was over, but like seemingly at a point where they had known about this relationship, this solicit relationship between a coach and his assistant for some amount of time. I think Shiver is trying to figure out when they knew about it. So at least with the report that came out, she's looking for words in emails like affair, right? Like she wants to see when Michigan knew about this. And like with a group I was with at the time when this story came out, it seemed like, hey, and this is not to make light of it, just I think it's a pretty prevailing sentiment. If Sharon Moore had beat Ohio State, like in the rivalry game, maybe he'd still be with the school, which is such a disgusting concept. But then again, it's Michigan football. And then again, this was a delayed firing. It was just odd of the timing. And we talk about on the show, like, are leagues, teams, like inclined to throw things under the rug if no one's going to find out? Like, God knows how many things have been thrown under the rug for sports in years and years that you and I will never know about, or that we know about that were thrown under the rug anyway. Shohei Ohtani. Mm-hmm. I'm going to die on this bridge, Mike. I know you're laughing.
I'm with you. I will be dying with you.
Yeah. Shohei Ohtani. This is like Sammy Sosa. Do you remember the Sammy Sosa congressional hearings?
Yes, exactly.
Sammy Sosa, I think I can say this, hopefully. I haven't been canceled yet, Mike, so I think people trust me. Sammy Sosa knows how to speak English, okay? Like Sammy Sosa, like forgot how to speak English at the congressional hearings. And he had an interpreter. It was just a horrendous look. Shohei Ohtani has been in interviews speaking English. And for him to not have any concept whatsoever when his interpreter was interpreting to the entire team about what was going on, and then Shohei's like, oh, I didn't understand any of that. I just find it so far-fetched. But at one point, Mike, we'll be right. We'll do like a 10-year reunion of that episode, and I'll have been right. But yeah, I think Michigan, there's certainly a world where Michigan was trying to sweep this under the rug, and then they decided, you know what, let's rip the Band-Aid off. It's going to come out at some point. And I just thought the delay was odd. Like he could have been fired for the affair, independent of anything else he did with the knife, going to her house. We don't even need to get into all that dirty stuff. But like, if you have a relationship with a subordinate, and it's an inappropriate relationship for whatever reason, fireable offense. So do we need to wait for, knives being involved? No. I mean, did Michigan make that? But I think that's the question that Shiver and her attorneys want to know. When did Michigan learn about it, and when did they make it? What triggered them to make the decision to fire him? Okay, Mike, I don't have anything else on that. I got about 8 minutes before I have to go down to the driveway.
I think we can. Hopefully, I really do. Knock on wood, we don't see any more Michigan stories, and maybe we'll see the end to this at some point. But.
Mike, I actually have a great bet. We're gonna do 2 bets. I'm gonna give you 2 bets as we get out of here. One bet has a lot to do with Michigan because you said Michigan, so I have to say it. I have a lot of friends in my circles that are Michigan people. Just grew up in the Northeast in Westchester County, New York. It's flooded with Michigan people. There's a lot of Michigan, New York City. It just I don't understand why, but whatever. It's big. I see this news. This a couple weeks ago. We hadn't recorded a podcast at that point, so I had nothing to no outlet. I get a tweet from the lovely Sham Sharanya, Dusty May, signing on to be coach of the Dallas Mavericks. I'm like, okay. And this is one of these arbitrage moments. You got to be quick. And that's why I get notifications from Schefter, back in the day, Woj, Shams, a couple people I get my notifications from. And you got to be quick. Like I remember Adam Schefter had the tweet, Tom Brady is like unretiring, going to the Bucs. You got to be quick. Why am I saying quick? You got to be quick to get to the betting lines as quickly as possible. Tom Brady unretiring and going to the Bucs. I put a large future on the Bucs, and I put my bet in, and then they offered me an immediate cash out at like 3-1 odds. I took it, so I made some money. Whatever. Okay, you're not really supposed to cash out. I did it. Sue me, Mike. I have a bet I'm not cashing out on, and it's maybe the best bet I've ever placed in my life, and it relates to Dusty May. So it's not my first rodeo. You got to get ready for the news. You got to be ready to react. So I see the bet. I see the bet in my head. Okay. Dusty May's leaving. Okay. Recruits are probably going to leave. Okay. People are going to transfer out. It's going to be an exodus out of Michigan. And I looked, and it wasn't so far in the Juwan Howard era where like Michigan really wasn't that good. So you're going to go from national champ to coachless overnight. Mike, do you want to know the bet that I placed?
I actually can't even guess it right now.
I went on the lovely side of Kalshi, and I placed a bet that Michigan would not have 15 wins, so 14 or less. If you go in Michigan's illustrious history, even recent history, they've not always hit that number. There were some dog days of the Juwan Howard era. It's not a guarantee. So, Mike, I placed a rather small wager. In hindsight, I should have placed a lot more money on this, but didn't want to watch Michigan basketball, but I have to. I placed a wager. We'll say everyone has their own units. Mine is half a unit. Half a unit. Could have done a full unit, half a unit. At 46-1 odds that Michigan would not have 15 wins. Okay? And then the line moved. Do you know what the line moved to, Mike?
Moved up.
Moved down.
Oh, okay.
No, we're saying the same thing.
I'm talking about, I think we are. I'm saying 68-1 or 70-1.
No, the other way. They lost.
Oh, it did go. Oh, okay.
It went to 3-1, Mike.
Oh, wow.
So I have a ticket on 46-1 odds that is now a 3-1 ticket. It's probably the best bet I've ever got in. It will pay me a lot of money.
For them to not win 15 games?
To have basically under 14 and a half wins.
Then we're on the same page. Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. That's crazy too to go down
Mike,
all the way to 3.
Put it in the notes. You're gonna have to, when basketball season comes around, we're gonna be watching some weekday Michigan basketball games. Under 14 and a half is the bet. It's not for everyone to bet on. You can just watch along. I still think about that amazing hit that we had right when I think you first joined the podcast, Caitlin Clark to lead the NBA and
Yes.
WNBA in threes, 6-1. I think that was the same year I hit Jaylen Brown to be Finals MVP. That was like 8-1.
You're on a heater.
I'm always on a heater. I just don't always share my bets because like these are like 8-1, 6-1, 40-1 bets, and I feel just as bad if they don't hit as if a normal minus 110 bet. So, Mike, speaking of bets that I am just going to say, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I have an interesting one, Mike.
Oh no. On what sport?
On the UFC.
Okay.
So I'm going to be in Vegas this weekend. I'm going to be watching the Conor McGregor Max Holloway fight. I've never been in Vegas for a fight week. I love UFC, which I've said on podcast many times. Conor McGregor, Mike, this is a bet for anyone to partake in. We're recording this on Thursday. You're going to have about 2 days to place this bet. So this is incentive to listen to the podcast as soon as it comes out because I usually going to have a Saturday bet. Mike, Conor McGregor is a legend, okay? He hasn't fought in 5 years. You can tell me he's really rusty. And I think most fans assume that Conor McGregor will be rusty. He probably will be. Fighting Max Holloway. Maybe people don't know Max Holloway. Maybe they do. Max Holloway fights generally out of the 145-pound weight class. Conor McGregor's coming back. Hasn't fought in 5 years. Trust me. Don't trust me. Conor McGregor's not coming back. First fight in 5 years. Handpicked opponent to a fight that he could lose. If he loses, it's really going to kill any momentum he has. What I don't think the casual fan realizes, Mike, is that Conor McGregor got Max Holloway to agree to a fight at the 170-pound weight class. So Max Holloway is fighting up 25 pounds more than he normally does. Conor McGregor is fighting up significantly more than he normally does. But in the last 5 years, people have seen those juiced out Conor pictures. Like he's fighting at a much higher weight class. So you have rusty Conor, maybe, but he's fighting at a much higher weight class. Max Holloway is really having to like almost put on weight to be in this weight class. Max Holloway is minus 215. Conor McGregor is plus 180. There is definitely a lot of public money on Conor, but that line is holding pretty firmly at minus 215. I am going to say, Mike, if Conor McGregor wins this fight, he's not going to win it by decision. It's almost impossible. He's going to win it in the first or second round via knockout. Mike, that's my bet. I feel like that will be the strategy. I don't know how else to say it. The odds on at least DraftKings, Conor McGregor round 1 finish plus 500, Conor McGregor round 2 finish plus 1,100. I guess if you want to roll the dice, you could say Conor McGregor round 3, 1,800. I don't think he's going to have the gas to go in. He's like my age. He's 38. I think he's 38, 39. He does not have the gas to get into round 4, round 5. No way. But I think his game plan for all intents and purposes is going to be to come out guns a-blazing. So if you like Conor and you want to have some fun, I would not be betting plus 180. That's pretty boring. He's not going to win by like decision. I highly doubt that. Conor McGregor KO round 1, round 2. If you want to tell me round 3, it's okay. If you want to take the under 2.5, I'm okay with that as well. But I like that bet a lot, Mike. Mike, are you rolling with me?
Yeah, let's write it in. I just wrote it down and made sure to, keep the tabs like we said. So
okay, good, Michael. Okay, let's call it a day, Mike. Excellent job as always, and we appreciate everybody coming back for more on our lovely show, Conduct Detrimental. I spoke with Dan Wallach as a programming note. Mike, you can hold me to it. Dan's been really in the weeds of these Kawhi lawsuits, and Dan obviously is really big in the gambling space. So I told Dan I'd like him to come back on and talk about Kawhi, Polymarket, companies, insider trading lawsuits. So I think we're going to get him. But hang tight, Mike. And that'll do it for us here, Conduct Detrimental. We'll see you next time on another lovely episode of my favorite podcast, Conduct Detrimental.